If you or anyone around you are affected by the subjects of today's podcast, you can reach out to get help, advice, or support from our charity partners, Women's Aid, at womensaid.org.uk, or the Yorkshire-based organisation IDAS at idas.org.uk. You can also find these links and reach out to us directly via our website, takebackthebeat.co.uk, or email us at takebackthebeattour@gmail.com. That's takebackthebeattour@gmail.com.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hey. Welcome back to Take Back the Beat.
Voice notes.
Yeah. Oh, look at you jump on the riff train. Oh, I swear.
Oh, gosh.
Someone's going to listen to the beginning and be like, oh, I thought this was two singers. Oh, clearly not. Just bye.
Hey, I love singing out of tune.
Me
It's
too.
fun.
It's the best. Right. Hey, guys. So welcome back to part 2. We are, full disclosure, we are recording these back to back. So we're not going to do the Biscoff section because you've just heard. And we have just taken a little break to have a cup of tea and a mental check-in with each other to check we're okay to carry on.
Yes.
But we've decided we are. So welcome back to part 2.
Welcome back. Yeah, and this episode is my gorgeous friend here, Nat's story.
Yeah.
So if you listen to mine, it was an hour and a half long.
It was.
So thank you for staying tuned. It was some very heavy, deep stuff.
Yeah.
But I crammed 5 years of my life into an hour and a half.
And you did very well. You put a lot in.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you.
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like a big weight has been lifted, even though, you know, I've talked about it before, but I think doing it here for the listeners has really kind of made me, I'm glad I've done it anyway.
Yes.
So
I'm very glad you've done it, and I'm glad that you
and
trust me to listen to it.
Yes, I know you're gonna feel fine, and I'm here. So let's take a deep breath because we're going to dive into your story if you are ready.
I am, and it's so hard because obviously if you listened to Farah's story, it's so hard doing this over Zoom, and I'm literally just sat in my garage with my little vocal booth set up on your own, and it's like, oh, this is my friend, and she's upset, and it's things that I hate that you've been through, and it's so hard to do this, but we just want to, we can't be hypocrites and sit here and ask people to be vulnerable with us when we are not prepared to do the same.
Yeah.
So
you asked for it. Here it is.
Yes.
So,
okay.
let's take a deep breath.
We're in.
Have a sip of the tea.
Sip of our lovely mint tea. Yeah.
Yes, I have a mint tea too. I love
Do
that.
you? Oh,
Yeah, a little
stop.
peppermint moment and a chocolate bar I had to sort myself out.
So
Called
proud
my
of you.
dad, sorted my life out, and now we're back.
We're back in the room. Back in the room.
So obviously now with Nat's story, I understand. I mean, I was young, like I said in mine.
Yeah.
But I know that you were a lot younger than me. So should we start there?
So we'll start with that story. My story's a little bit different to Farah's, but it's every story. I mean, you hear so many stories about this sort of stuff, and it all kind of leads to the same. So I was in my teens. I was very young when I met this person. Very vulnerable, very influential. Is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Didn't know who I was. Impressionable, that's the word.
Yeah.
I was very insecure as a kid. I was bullied quite badly for being fat, for having curly hair. I had really bad teeth. I mean, thank God for braces and stuff. But I wasn't. I was a target for a lot of bullying as a kid.
Well, you're bloody gorgeous.
Oh, thank you very much. So yeah, I was very, very insecure and very shy, I guess is the right word. And I met this person and everyone fancied them. Mm-hmm. It was that. And as a kid, it was mind-blowing. And I guess something I should say, and I said this to Farah earlier, I feel really sick doing this. Sorry, I just noticed then, I'm like, my heart's going very fast.
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time, boo.
It's fine. So I suffer with PTSD, which I'm going to talk about a bit later as to why and stuff. But a symptom of PTSD is like when you have flashbacks or when you think back to things, there's like a fogginess over some moments and doubt. So even though I know things factually happened, I doubt myself constantly and think, oh, that couldn't have happened. That didn't happen to you. And actually you go, yeah. And then someone will say something and I go, oh, so you saw, oh, it did happen. And it's a really weird part of PTSD to have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there might be it's a bit vague, and it's not something I dwell on a lot or talk about a lot, mainly for my mental health. So mine might not be as in depth as Farah's, but just know that it's not because I don't want to share it. I just need to look after me. Yeah. We were together for like officially kind of like nearly 3 years, like 2.5. But when it ended, we kind of carried on for a little bit because I was so broken.
We all do. We do, don't we? And it never ends on that day.
No. And it started off as very much manipulation, very much kind of what you said, like little comments here and there that weren't offensive, directly offensive, but little things like comparisons and little comments. And then it turned into control. So I wasn't allowed to go places. I wasn't allowed to see people. I remember going shopping once and I said I would only be a couple of hours. And when I was actually 3 hours, it ended quite badly. And I was terrified.
How did that, sorry to interrupt, you said it went from just like the little comments like with me to the control. Was that like a big jump in the sense of like, was it just like dropping hints about makeup or like, you know what I mean? Like how did that...
No,
what sort of things would they say? Like, how
it would start off as like little comments, as in like, "Oh, that person looks nice," or like, "Oh, you don't dress like that," or I can't even really remember like specifically, but little things similar, like that. Yeah, and then it would be little things like, "If you do this, this will happen." Like, for instance, there was an under 18s nightclub I wanted to go to with my friends, and he was like, "If you go, I'll cheat on you."
Oh wow, okay.
And there was a girl I was quite insecure about, and it was always her that he would say.
Oh yeah.
And so in the end, I would always pull sickies to see my friends, and eventually everyone kind of stopped talking to me. I was very isolated, especially that young, because I guess you don't really know. You just kind of go, oh, okay. And I had a group of lads as mates, and I wasn't really allowed to see them. And when I say allowed, it kind of happened just one day of just like, oh, that's the relationship I'm in now. I don't even know. I can't even say to you, oh, this moment, it just all of a sudden I was in this place of I can't do this, I can't do that. And
when you're so young, though, you don't have anything to compare it to.
No.
You don't know.
Yeah. And like, it's my first relationship, and I was so insecure, and it was this guy that fancied me. Like, that's crazy. Like, no one fancies me. I'm the weird little kid, and like it was really, really strange. And a lot of my friends started like calling me out on it and like blaming me and being like, now you've got a boyfriend, you don't care about us. And I was so desperate to be like, I'm just not allowed, like, please someone understand. But you don't at that age. I was embarrassed and I was scared. I didn't want to lose him. And he took advantage a lot of the generosity of my family.
Okay, yeah.
You know my family, they're lovely people.
Oh my God, I love Debs.
Yeah, but he would
but Debs cooks for me, so sorry, Trev.
Debs makes the cakes, yeah. He, like, for instance, if they were going out for dinner, he would nearly demand that he was invited. And my parents are always the kind of people that are like when we go out like for dinner with Aiden and stuff, they always pay, but they love when people are like, oh, let me get this. And the amount of arguments my boyfriend now and my dad have had trying to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Like, the other week, Aiden literally ripped a credit card out of my mum's hand to pay a bill. It's very funny. But my parents are very those kind of people. Even if we don't have the money, they want to give it to other people. And you're like, guys, we don't have this. But he took advantage of that. And they didn't like him. And they saw how kind of quiet I got. But I didn't tell anyone. I told no one that he had this control over me.
Yes.
Even like, okay, so my nan, who I was really close to, she died when I was 16, when we were together. And this is something I'm really angry about. But my mum had bought me tickets to go see Wicked in the West End because I was that kid. I loved musical theatre, and that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be Elphaba and all this sort of stuff. So my mum got me tickets on the 23rd of September.
Oh, wow. Is that imprinted? Do you remember the date?
Well, yeah. In London. So me and my ex, we went up and we saw the show. And my nan was having, do you know what? I think it's a valve replacement. I don't really know. I kind of really block out a lot about my nan's death. But she had a problem with her heart. So she had to have something done. And it was a surgery that was like, it's bog standard. Like it's heart surgery, but it's good. And I wanted to go see my nan in hospital, and he was very much against that because he didn't want to. I don't even think he gave me a reason. He just said no, and I didn't fight it. And my nan actually died 3 days later.
Oh, babe. Oh, darling.
Oh, I'm crying so quickly.
No, it's because it's your nan.
And something I hate is, I regret that massively, but something I really hate was a few years later when it kind of came out. My mum told me that my nan had seen.
Oh.
She'd seen him push me.
Oh, God.
And she wanted to say something, but she spoke to my mum and... No, that was it. She didn't speak to my mum. She spoke to me. She said something. And I was like, oh, no, we're play fighting. We're play fighting. It's absolutely fine. And then she told my mum. And I was a horrible, horrible person. Like, I know you understand this because you said you did the same, but I was a royal bitch. The only way I could protect my family from what was happening to me was by pushing them away.
Yeah. So
I didn't talk to anyone. I was horrible. I remember screaming at my mum to leave me alone. And yeah, so when I found that out, that really hurt because I was like, she saw me there. And
I hope you so much.
Oh, it's so hard to talk about because I feel so much guilt for that because my nan was such an incredible woman and she always had our backs and she was amazing and I'd love her to see us now.
She'll know.
I'm going to pull myself together really quick.
It's okay.
So yeah, that's something that's really kind of embedded in my brain and a real regret I have of mine that I let him do that. But I saw nothing wrong with it. This is the weirdest thing. Like even when I talk about it now, like my brain's going, Nat, this isn't abuse. Like stop taking people's time and stop being on this podcast talking about this. It's not abuse. But I know I keep on to remind myself it was. Like
it absolutely is.
Babe, there were so many things I wasn't allowed to do. I remember going to a party and wearing a colour top that he didn't like. And
oh God.
I remember he didn't say anything, and I was so excited because it was all his friends, because I had no friends. It was all his friends. And we turned up at the front door and he literally just turned to me and I can't even remember what he said, but it was something along the lines of, that jumper is disgusting. You look disgusting.
Oh, wow.
And then the door opened and we went to this party and I remember trying to ignore him and having a few drinks and like dancing around and him pulling me to a side and telling me that one of the boys was looking at me and I needed to stop. And I ended up going and sitting in the corner, not talking to anyone. And then I've later found out through talking to people that they've gone, oh my God, we just heard that you like didn't like us.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
that's
so,
the thing as well.
Yeah, and like
you become the problem.
Yes,
because people don't know what's actually going on.
No, everyone
thought
hates
you.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone just thought I was this bitch. And he was charming, so charming, and everyone loved him. Everyone loved him. And they didn't see what happened behind closed doors. That's the thing. And I could have walked away so many times. So many times he gave me the opportunity to walk away. And I didn't, because I was convinced this is what is meant for me. This is the love that I am chosen to have, if that makes sense. Like, my parents had the most incredible relationship. They're soulmates. And my nan and my granddad, who I don't call granddad, his name was Farvey, because my mum couldn't, like, it's something to do with my mum couldn't say granddad when she was a kid, so they always call their granddads Farvey. He was my Farvey. But yeah, they were soulmates. So although I was surrounded by those relationships of love, I was like, oh, that's not meant for me. I'm not worthy of that. I'm not that girl. This is all I'm worth. And I was told constantly that was all I was worth. So I believed it. And I got really ill after. I'm kind of skimming through a lot of this, so just back me up at any point.
No, it's fine. Take your time.
Just getting it off. There was physical abuse quite a lot, even if it was just grabbing me too hard, or there was once when he didn't like what I wore in a dance show, which, as you know, we have no control over that.
Well, it's a form of art, so
it's a form of art. I was in a leotard. I ballet dancer, and I ended up with a few bruises after the show, and was told I wasn't allowed to go back to that dance school that I went to, and that really impacted me.
Did you quit?
I did, yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that bit.
Only for a short time.
Yeah.
And then I started to go back because I needed to. And I missed it. I missed it so much.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did.
I'm really, really glad I did. But I was just told constantly like I wasn't good enough. And I ended up getting, after my nan died, I kind of shut off all my emotions and wanted to be strong for my mum. And so therefore I didn't deal with my emotions. I just put on this face of like, I'll be the adult, I'll help. And I remember a family member saying to me, you can't cry because your mum needs your support right now. And my mum, when I told my mum this, my mum went skits.
I was going to say, I bet she was not happy about that at all.
Yeah, like, oh my God, she was so angry. And like, obviously, like, I did cry. Like, it's my nan, of course I did. And yeah, so I very much kind of took on that. So therefore, I suppressed it, and I ended up getting anorexia. I didn't eat. God. For a very, very long time. I used to do the age-old trick of my mum would cook me dinner and I would take a mouthful while she was in the room and then instantly spit it out and put my food in the bin.
Wow.
I got really skinny, really, really ill. And then me and this guy broke up. And I got so much attention. When we broke up, I kind of rebelled and started going out with my friends. I'd made some really great friends at this college I was at. So I started going out, started doing things. And I got so much attention for being thin.
Okay.
That it kind of propelled it in the right word.
It feeds it, doesn't it? It feeds the illness when those things happen.
Which then kind of reiterated in my head that, oh my God, like I was worthless because I was really fat and chubby. So therefore being skinny, at least I've got skinny on my side. Like I'm not a pretty person or I've not got any talent, but at least I'm thin. And and I hate that was where my brain was. But yeah, that's where I was at. And my parents are fucking amazing with this. So they obviously clocked on that I was ill and they didn't press anything. And I remember the first thing I ate was a digestive biscuit. And I remember this because a few of my friends had come round. And obviously them and my mum had chatted and stuff like this. And my mate just went, Nat, do you want a biscuit? As casual as that. And because I was like surrounded by those people, I was like, yeah, I will. And they didn't make a big deal out of it. It wasn't a big deal. But inside I was like, oh my God, are they going to judge me? And I'm so glad no one said anything. They just kind of sat there and were like, great, cool, moving on. And I know deep down, like, that would have been a huge thing, but they didn't. They just didn't. And I'm so grateful for that. I do have quite a toxic relationship with food still. I'm a lot better than I was.
You are. And I'm proud of you for that, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I really am.
I had another flare up when I was obviously at dance college, because that's what happens.
Oh gosh, that is another story, isn't it?
That's a whole other story. So yeah, it's definitely something I deal with, and it's definitely a thing of worth, and something that's come out of that kind of abuse of, I can't control how I look. I can't control, well, as in like the genetics I have. I can't control my talent. I can't control what makes me me, but what I can control is my weight. So that was definitely that. And I mean, Aiden's freaking amazing. Like, whenever I talk to him about things with a kind of my relationship with food, he's just brilliant. He gets it, and he's just great. And if I'm triggered at any point and I tell him, he's brill. So
yeah, he is.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful to have that support. But yeah, so kind of going back to, I started getting really ill. I got loads of attention, and obviously he started to give me attention too.
Yeah.
And we didn't break up by my choice.
Okay.
He actually cheated on me.
Yeah, okay.
And then he left me for her.
Of course, right, all right.
Yeah. So it wasn't even my choice, which made it so worse, because I was like, this relationship I'm in, where I feel like absolute worthless and nothing, I'm not even worth that. And that was my brain. I was like, oh my God, not even you will love me. And
oh, mate.
Yeah, it was really a horrendous kind of few months. And then and I begged for him back. I begged. I'm not even ashamed to say it. I would cry down the phone to him. I begged for him back, and he had me on a piece of fucking string. Like,
oh my God, I've been there.
Yeah. I used to say to my mum and dad, oh, I'm just going to get some petrol. And I'd go sit in a car park and just wait for him to turn up for 10 minutes just for a chat. And I'd beg and I'd cry. And I mean, looking back now, when I talked to my mum and dad about it, like, my mum actually got really upset the other day. We were talking about Take Back the Beat, and she listens, and she got upset, and she was like, it's just knowing. And I was like, yeah, but it's fine, because we're here, and it's so hard, because it's not, and like my mum says all the time, she's like, I just wanted to be there, and I just wanted to like kick him out my house, but I was terrified to lose you. And I so get that, because if she had have done that, I'd have chased him. I'd have been with him.
Yeah, I had a few circumstances like that as well.
Yeah.
And my mum just did things because she knew if not, I wouldn't be in that room, because I'd have just gone, well, fuck you then. Which is horrible, but that's the place you get.
That is 100%. And it's, when you look back now, I'm so mortified, and I love my family so much that I hate that I put them through that. I remember this one time, we weren't even having an argument. That's the reason I taught my nan. So my nan brought me this amazing piano. I've played piano since I was a kid, and my nan loved it. My nan and me used to sit, and I would make up chords, and she would make up lyrics, and it was just, bless her. I mean, she wouldn't know a key if it hit her in the face. Like, literally, she singing in tune was beyond my nan's abilities. But brilliant. I loved it.
A bit like our intros then.
Yes, exactly that.
She'll like them. She'll like them.
Yeah. So we used to do that, and so I had this amazing piano. And he didn't like, because he played instruments too. He didn't like me playing piano. And actually,
why?
I don't know. I actually have no idea.
Because you were talented and he's not. Sorry, the sassiness is coming out of me now.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know.
I'm angry for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it was part embarrassment, because when I would play, I would just get annihilated. I don't really know. It just, yeah. So I didn't. I guess I have to take a bit of responsibility of it, because I did constantly shy away. Like, everything he said was like word for me. Like, it was law. Like, I was obsessed with him. I worshipped him, even though everything he was doing, I was so upset. And I remember sat on his sofa once going, if he just broke up with me, I could do this, I could do that. You could, oh my God, this would be amazing. But that's never going to happen. Like, I was, that's where I was. This was life for me. And we were having an argument, and he'd grabbed my hand quite viciously. I've actually still got a bit of my little finger is. You've probably never noticed this. My little finger is misshapen.
Oh God.
Yeah, and my mum walked in, and my mum was like, "What is all this yelling?" And when she didn't scream, but she just said that, and he stormed out the house like yelling. And I crumbled on the floor, and I screamed at my mum. I swore at my mum, and my mum, I don't know how she did this. She got in the car and she went and chased him, and she went and brought him back.
Wow.
Because she said, I would have lost you.
Yeah.
And I hate so much that I put them through that. There's so many different stories of it that I look back and go like, is that real life? And it's so weird because, again, like I said, everyone loved him. He was so charming and talented and good looking, and everyone, that was just what it was. So yeah, it was a really hard thing. And then obviously he finished it with me, but we still had this weird pull together. And I don't know what was happening. I couldn't live without him in my brain. Yeah. And then I auditioned for a couple of drama schools, and I got into Italia Conti. And I just remember getting the letter and standing in my kitchen, and I was like, I've got an out. I can get out. I can leave.
Oh my God.
Because we were going to go to we were talking about going to the same college in our hometown, even though we went together, and I remember like even his mum being like, oh, you two will work it out. And I was like, I don't want to, please. Like, it's so weird because it's such an internal struggle, because I knew this is not the life I wanted, but yet I couldn't get out. I couldn't find the strength, and I was so alone. Like, I had no friends, like not a soul. Everyone had given up on me because I was such a dick. And I couldn't handle it. And like, I got depression at the same time. So I was diagnosed with depression. And I used to remember calling my mum at lunchtime at college, and she'd have to come pick me up and just sit in the car park while I just sobbed. And and then I just go back to class. And it's such a weird thing, because I don't know why I was crying. I would just start sobbing. And I was like, this is so weird. So yeah, I got into Italia Conti, and my parents kind of sat me down and they were like, look, if you don't get a scholarship, we can't send you. Like, obviously not. We're not, like, my family, they work their asses off, but by no means rich. So it's a lot of money to go to drama school and to live in London. So I was very much aware of this. And I'll never forget, I was laying on the sofa having a nap, because, stress. And the phone rang, and my mum answered it. And I just remember her screaming. I remember her being so happy and saying, she's got a dada. And I felt this sick in my stomach, because I was like, oh, I am going. Oh, okay. And this sounds so stupid, but I was gutted for a second.
Yeah.
And obviously,
also, I'm going to call you out for 1 second. Stop
Please
saying I feel stupid, or oh my God, I can't believe I was thinking. The feelings, their emotions.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
these are
you're
real
correct.
psychologically damaging things that you've been through, and it's as simple as that. You feel how you feel in the time because it's trauma, and it's a build-up of abuse and bullshit. So the feelings that you feel are 100% valid, so please stop saying they're stupid. And I'm just calling you out because I love you.
Yeah, I love you for that, and I deserve that, so yes.
Yep. Carry on.
So yeah, obviously, like, I went, and I'm so grateful that I went, and I really pulled myself out of it. But what was really, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here, but when I moved to London and I kind of got this new lease of Nat Gray, and I was like going to reinvent myself and all this sort of stuff, I came back to my hometown for a party, and it was like mutual friends from my old college, and he was there with the girl he'd left me for.
Oh, wow.
And her friend threw a glass at my face.
What the fuck?
And started screaming at me for sleeping with her friend's boyfriend. And I was like, I was like, I live in London. I was like, what? And he'd been basically gaslighting her and comparing her to me and all this sort of stuff. It was so horrific. And that was kind of one of the nights that, because I didn't tell anyone, no one knew. Well, there's one person that knew, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. So this party, when that happened, my ex pulled me into a bedroom and got in my face, put his arms on me and was holding me far too tight. And our mutual friend ran into the bedroom, pulled him off me and was like trying to kick him out the house. And this mutual friend called my mum and was like, you need to come pick up Nat, she's in a state. And he turned to me and he went, that's not the first time that's happened, is it? And I was like, no. And he was like, and he went absolutely sparse. He was like, right, cool. And he was fuming. And I'm really grateful for that, because he, in that moment, really believed me. And in that moment, I felt like what he was doing was wrong. And I had never felt that.
Is this the situation that we're talking about? I don't know. Do you want to elaborate on that? Or
what do you mean? When he had his hands around my throat?
Yeah.
Is that what, yeah.
Is that, or is
yeah,
that?
No, it's fine. It's just really hard to say.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, he had his hands round my neck and was basically telling me to say all these things because he was going to get in trouble and all this sort of stuff. And I was terrified for my life. Yeah, which was really scary. And I know he was drunk and I know that, like, whatever, but yeah, that
Not
moment.
Not an excuse.
Not an excuse. Yeah. It was horrific. And I was so young. And again, that's one of those moments that I look back at now and it's foggy. Like, I remember bits of it and I remember it because I've told you it.
That's your brain protecting itself. Yeah. That's what it does.
And I said to you, like, I was terrified to talk my story. What if no one believes me again? Because I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So those little things happened. But it was such a horrific, manipulative time in such a crucial part of my life when I was trying to learn who I was. So no one knew apart from his family. Again, I'll never forget having a huge argument, which ended up with him literally throwing me on the bed and me hitting my head on the wall, and horrific.
Oh,
he stormed out the house and his stepdad came upstairs and said to me he'd ordered me a taxi and I was to get in that taxi and never come back. He was like, you have to do this for your own life.
Wow. And that was who, sorry?
His stepdad.
His stepdad, his own stepdad said that.
His own stepdad. Ironically, I don't know if that's ironic, that's just a weird word to say, but a few years later, when I was living in London, I bumped into his stepdad on the tube.
Oh.
And he gave me the biggest hug and he said, thank fuck you got yourself out of there. I was terrified.
Wow.
And
God.
They're not together anymore. I don't know why, I don't know the ins and outs. But he just said to me that he was terrified. And I couldn't. I remember his mum trying to talk me down. I remember excuses being thrown. Another thing making me believe that this was what I was worth. He has, I don't know if he's got help. I don't know. I know nothing about him now. He had serious anger issues. I think while we were together, he smashed 2 laptops because of Football Manager.
What?
And he wasn't quiet about it. Like he was a very angry person. And I just made excuse after excuse after excuse. And
you do when you love someone now.
Yeah, and I was so young. Like I think back to that girl and I just feel I just want to give her a hug and tell her it's okay to be different. It's okay to be a bit weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember him threatening to break up with me and calling me all names under the sun because I'd cut my hair different.
Okay.
Without telling him, and little things
without
like that.
His permission.
And we speak about triggers quite a lot. And this is something that's happened quite recently. I haven't actually told you this. So my parents forked out for this huge holiday. We went to Orlando, Florida. You know me and how obsessed I am with Disney.
Yes, you are.
So
a
this
Disney
should
queen.
have been the 2 weeks of absolute amazingness, and it was just after my GCSEs, and I was I was so excited, and he wasn't invited. Obviously, we were 16.
Yeah.
And even if he was, like, he couldn't afford to come. My parents couldn't afford to have paid for him to come. So
Yeah.
all that. And he said to me, if I see one photo of you smiling, we're done.
What?
And we had loads of arguments leading up to holiday. I remember my sister playing Disney music in her room on one night because she was excited, and it ended up with him threatening me, with him storming out, with he throwing things and slamming doors at me. And I was terrified, and I went on this holiday, and I hate myself for this so much because I was horrible to my parents. I was so horrible. I refused to be in any photo, and if I was, I put a horrific face on. I racked up £1,000 phone bill.
Oh my days.
Because he had this control over me, and he would text me and say, you have to call me now. And I'd be like, no. And he went, no, you have to call me immediately. And I'd be like, okay, yep, fine, that's absolutely fine.
Babe. I'm so sorry.
To the point of the phone company called my mum while we were in Florida, because her name was on my phone bill, and was like, we're putting a block on this phone because it's just hit £1,000. Wow. And my mum was...
I didn't even know they did that.
No. And the first thing he said to me when I told him was, sell your piano. And I was like...
Your grandma?
That my nana given me. Oh. And I was like, no. And he used to these threats of, like, he's like, oh, I'm leaving a box of your stuff outside your house, or I'm going off with so-and-so, and just manipulative threats until I called him. Or it's not, my life isn't worth living unless you call me. And I just was so wrapped by him. And I remember one day going, I've had enough. I can't. And I broke down in this hotel room in Florida with my sister and a family friend who was there. And they both were like, thank God. Oh my God, amazing. And I turned my phone off, and we went out for the night to a restaurant. It was lovely. And I came back, turned my phone on, and it was just abuse, like the most horrific abuse. I don't even really remember what he said. It was just, A, I was terrified. B, I was upset. I was crying, and I went straight back to him. And I was begging for forgiveness, and ridiculous. Yeah. And so I think we've spoken to another podcast. I don't know if we have actually. So last year, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, but he's got the all clear now. He's absolutely fine. Like, Trevor's good. So my parents have booked this amazing holiday for the four of us. So me and my dad, my sister and my mum, to go to Jamaica. And we're so fucking excited. But they did.
I'm so envious, by the way.
Know. I'm so
going to just say it right now.
But and they did invite Aidan, but because he's in Les Mis, their holidays are really strict because he is also,
I can imagine.
Yeah, and he's second cover the lead. Like, they have to be really careful with when people go on holiday and blah, blah, blah. So he couldn't get the dates off. And he was so sad, bless him. Like, we're in like a group chat with my whole family and him, of course. And like, he was just absolutely like rinsing my mum and saying like she did it on purpose. And it was very funny. And it was all banter and it was all jokes. And he was like sending her gifts of like a crying baby and stuff. Very funny. And then we were at dinner the other night and they started talking about Jamaica. And Aidan was like, sorry, what? I don't know what this is. Sorry. Oh, is this a holiday I wasn't invited to? Oh, yep, fine, whatever. Oh, I'll go sit in a corner and cry.
Oh, bless him.
And I sat there and a part of me went, oh God. And I was like, hold on, it's Aidan. Hold on. No. And I literally leant over and gave him a kiss. And I was just like, I love you. And he was like, all right, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And it's because...
But it was triggered from the last holiday with the family in Florida because you were like...
Exactly.
He's upset and it's...
Yeah, and my brain went to... Yeah, my brain went to, oh God, he doesn't feel welcome. He doesn't feel... And what if he goes off and cheats on me like my ex used to threaten to do and like he ended up doing? And oh my God. And actually I was like, nah, it's Aidan. Like... He's just probably going to send me pictures of him sat in a dressing room in Salford and moaning that he's not in the sun. But he'll be going, have the best time, babe. Like,
oh my God, yeah. He will absolutely be. He'll just be like me. I'll just be like, oh, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. It's just, it's banter because we're genuinely jealous we can't come.
Yeah, but I was really triggered by it. And I did say to him, like, again, he doesn't know the ins and the outs of everything I've been through because I don't talk about it.
You've never talked this in depth. I know.
No.
A majority, obviously.
Yes.
We talk a lot.
Yeah.
But I am very proud of you for opening up like this.
I mean, I'm shaking like an absolute leaf.
I know.
You can see I'm fidgeting, just like...
We got each other through the screen.
Yeah, we do. And it's such a... It's horrific because every time my mum talks about it, she gets so upset and she says to me it's because it was her baby and she watched her baby go through this and there was nothing she could do. And I was just such a mess. And it was such abuse. Like, I was, before the age of 18, believed I was worthless and ugly and disgusting. And it's so, I remember I actually got asked to do this like photo shoot, this like ballet photo shoot when I was 18. And my mum won't allow the pictures in the house because you can see all the bones in my spine.
No.
I remember being so proud of these photos as well. And my mum was just like, they're disgusting. And like, there's a picture, I'm bent over, like tying up my point shoe, and you can see tying up my point shoe, sorting like my point shoe out. And you can see like my spine just clear as day. And I look at it and like my face was gone and my hair started to fall out. And I was a mess, but so believed I was worth nothing. And I hate that because I was such a happy kid. Like, before I met him, I gave zero shits. I was so badly bullied and yet gave zero shits what anyone thought of me. I loved being weird. I loved being different. And then the second I got into this relationship, that joy kind of left.
Yeah, they take all the things that you think are good and make them weird, but in a bad way, and make them negative. So then you go, oh shit.
And
I'm nothing like I thought I was.
Yeah, and I genuinely believed I deserved nothing. And you know this firsthand because when we went to Thailand a few years back, I just got a phone call that I'd got a record deal with New State Music, with Billy the Kid and Joel Corey for this song we'd done. And I sat on the floor. I remember having wet hair, sat on the floor and just had a panic attack. And I remember you and Leanne, who we were with, were just like, what the fuck is going on? And I just kept saying, I don't deserve this. And I remember you and Leanne being like, this, I don't understand. What are you on about? And I was like, I'm here with my best mates in Thailand, like doing some amazing things, having some amazing meetings. And I've got a record deal back home. I've got a boyfriend who loves me and actually respects me. And I've got an incredible family. I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
And even after we got back from Thailand, I really struggled because I was just waiting for the ground to fall. Because I don't deserve
you were
happiness.
waiting for something.
Yeah, and
well, you do, but that's what your brain.
Yeah,
you tell
and like
yourself that. Yeah,
I openly talk to Aidan about a lot of things and say to him this, and his sentence that I love, he just goes, "I'm not them."
Yeah,
and I'm like, I know you're not. You are one of a kind, and I'm so thankful for him. But he does it all the time. He's like, "I'm not them. I'm not them." And I'm like, I know you're not. So it's really hard because it is something I definitely live with. And obviously, so I was diagnosed with depression and I went on antidepressants for a year. And I just hated them. I was numb the whole time. I felt nothing. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
So I came off of them and stupidly just took myself off of them. I didn't like wean myself. I didn't get help.
Dear.
Yeah, I just came straight off of them, and that definitely flared up the not eating side of my brain. But that was when I just went to Conti's, and a lot was happening, and I had a lot of flare-ups at Conti's, but I was so glad that part of my life was done because I couldn't handle it anymore. The first person I ever told was the next guy. We'd only been together a short time, and I told him and he didn't believe me. And I was so mortified and so upset. And it wasn't until, so the guy at the party who had helped me, it wasn't until he said to my new partner, "Oh, that's the guy that used to hit Nat."
Okay.
And I was fuming that it took someone else to validate my story.
Yeah.
But it silenced me. I was so mortified and embarrassed that I didn't tell anyone. And then I was in the car with my sister. I think I've spoken about this before, but I was in the car with my sister and we were having a conversation about something else. And she just went, "Did he used to hit you?" And I just looked at her and cried and just said, "Yeah." And that's when I found out that my nan had seen him push me and that my mum had had suspicions. She remembers this bruise really specifically. She brought it up the other day, actually, when we were talking about Take Back the Beat. And she's like, "I remember things that it killed me to turn a blind eye to, and I hate myself for it." And I was like, you had to. Like, I couldn't, no one could have saved me at that point. Only me, only the strength.
It is you, isn't it? It's a scary thing because you automatically become so defensive if somebody just points it out because you're not ready. Yeah. You don't really know what's going on yourself. Like, the depth of it anyway. You don't realise what it's doing to you.
Yeah, and
so you do just lash out. I've lashed out at all my family, and I hate myself for that. But again,
they love you.
Now
they're your family.
It's a whole thing. You know, the psychological damage that happens.
Yeah,
they understand it was all part of the process.
And I think
of getting out.
Yeah, and I think this was actually what Kaylee said a few episodes ago. Like, at that time, we didn't know terms like gaslighting or like those sort of things, and especially because I was so young. People were like, "Oh, that doesn't happen to kids," and it does. And it's quite why I'm quite passionate about. I go into schools and I talk about mental health because obviously I'm going to talk about my PTSD in a minute. But I openly I don't ever say that because I think it's quite heavy. But I do talk about having mental health problems and the importance of speaking out because I kind of think I was at secondary school. It can happen anytime.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So yes, that kind of leads me on to so this podcast obviously is kind of focused a lot on domestic violence and abuse, but we also have a real big side for kind of violence against women in general.
Yes.
Hence why we talk about Sarah Everin quite a lot and the whole thing of like she was just going for a run of that horrific side. And the reason for that is I've been attacked in London multiple times. The main two that I want to talk about are one. I
hate this.
I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, I just wish I could have been there and just been like, Grah.
I know, but there's nothing you could have done.
I know, but
I wouldn't have wanted.
You know, in mine, obviously, you were saying this is the bit for me, as obviously with the other guy, but these are the bits that make me just want to fucking rage because I'm like, like I hate these people.
Yeah, it's so the first one was I was in a musical in London and I was on a bus coming home and a guy just got on the bus, ran straight up to me and kicked me in the face and I instantly passed out. He carried on kicking me and apparently he carried on kicking my bag, like he attacked my bag. The bus driver stopped. I don't actually know any of this because I was passed out, but the people I was with told me this. The bus stopped and the guy tried to get off and they wouldn't let him. And then he was telling everyone he had a knife. And then an ambulance came and a police car came and whatever. And they sorted me out and I had a fractured cheekbone and my jaw was slightly out of line, which I suffer with now. I have to have a night guard at night and I get jaw therapy because I have, what is it called? TMJ, which I actually can't remember what that stands for, but it's basically jaw tension.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. So yeah, and I had black eye and I had concussion and I'll never forget, they didn't have a cover for my part in the show. So the next night I went on. Oh, babe.
Stop it.
Babe. I went on stage with 2 black eyes and I did my part. And I was running off stage like being sick with concussion. But the show must go on. Like that was my brain. So that was that one, which was horrific. But actually, I kind of dealt with really well. Looking back now, I did deal with that really well. I just carried on, everything was fine. And then in 2015, I want to say, might be 14.
I don't know why that got me, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, don't cry because you'll make me cry again. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
This is horrible doing this over Zoom. We definitely did not plan this well.
Okay. I'm sorry, go on.
No, you're fine. And then, so, yeah, it's either 2015 or 14. My mum will correct me when she hears this. I was on my way to a gig. I walked out of my flat in London and a guy pulled a gun at my head and he pulled the trigger. And the only reason I'm alive is because the bullet got stuck or it didn't work. There is no reason or rhyme. In the words of the detective, someone is looking after me.
Yes. It gives me chills every time you tell me that story. It
makes me feel quite sick, and I talk about it a lot. This is something I'm talk about openly a lot on my TikTok and in schools and stuff. But it there's always a pang in my heart of like,
that happened.
Yeah. And so basically there was like a little, next to where it happened was this little like alleyway dead end thing. It was where people used to park their cars to like pop into Sainsbury's, but you could only fit like half a car in there. And I just half a car. And obviously so he pulled the trigger and I heard this weird noise, and then I kind of just looked at him and I pegged it into this little alleyway thing and hid behind the wall, and genuinely fight or flight mode kicked in. Like, so logical. My heart wasn't even pounding. I literally, well, obviously it was pounding, but it wasn't like going mental. It was just like regular. And my brain just went, okay, Nat, you either stand here and he'll come round and he'll shoot you in the head and you'll just die, or you run home and I feel like you can survive getting shot in the back. That was genuinely my brain.
The fact that those were your options, is crazy.
Yeah,
but that is genuine fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
That is the definition.
Absolutely. And I ran home. I was only about 6 seconds from my front door, so I pegged it, called 999, and they actually, on their way to get my statement, found the guy pulling the gun on someone else. And arrested him. I
didn't know that bit.
Oh, did you not? Randomly, no. The guy found me on Twitter. The guy who they'd pulled the gun out on. He found me on Twitter.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the gunman then. I nearly had a heart attack.
No. The other guy, he found me on Twitter and he just reached out and said, thank you for calling the police. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, so then...
Can I ask?
Yeah, of course.
So they found this guy. What was his reasoning?
Gang initiation.
Oh shit, okay.
Yeah, he just had to kill someone. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Obviously it's not. I'm just angry. That's my way.
Yeah.
Cool, great. Yeah, great.
I had to do a lineup. Which is exactly like it is in the films, but actually it was different actually. No. So I was terrified all day, like literally shitting my pants, and the policeman picked me up and I went and I was in this room and they showed me, it was a TV screen of like all the guys. Babe, literally I watched these men and was like, I haven't got a clue. I don't know which one of you it is. And
really?
I was like, one of you tried to take my life and I can't even tell your face. I don't know.
Wow.
And it was a false ID. I picked someone, and I didn't know, and it's really hard because I never got justice from it because.
Wait, so this guy's still out? That he didn't get put away?
No, babe. Nothing happened. Nothing came of this.
Even though they caught him, with a gun, at someone else,
nothing
with
came
the
of this.
intent to kill, he got arrested. And that was it.
It was really bizarre. Like,
oh my God,
when
this makes me so mad.
When it happened, it's all a blur. Like, I think about it now. And again, I only know bits because, like, people have told me bits. I can't remember a lot because really have fogged this out.
Understandably.
But I remember the policeman telling me that this whole gang initiation thing. He came over to my house to tell me. I remember this policeman giving me a hug and telling me I'm the luckiest woman he'd ever met in his life.
Wow.
And I'm never getting going. If you were my daughter, I would tell you to pack your bags this second and leave. And he told me basically where I lived was in between two known gangs. And the road I'm on is basically like a warpath.
Oh my days, but you obviously, did you not know that?
I had no idea. No, and like, babe, I'd lived there for 3 years and I was happy as Larry.
How scary is that?
Terrifying. But I never really got anything from the police. They never told me what was happening. I tried to chase it and they weren't sure, or like I didn't have the right crime number or whatever. And it was, and eventually I ended up getting, I went off and did Sesame Street the musical.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember this. So I was touring the world. I went to like the Emirates quite a lot. So I kind of put this to the back of my head and just moved on with my life.
You did what I did and just went...
And just carried on.
This is a distraction and a great opportunity. I'm going to forget about it.
Yeah, and the irony, right? So just before this had happened, my little Minnie Mouse, my dog, was living with me in London. And I couldn't have her in London anymore. I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. Yeah. I couldn't have, even though she actually helped my anxiety so much, I was terrified of her getting killed, her getting taken, her. And like, that was kind of the first signs of my anxiety and my PTSD, but I ignored it. I then went off and did a musical with David Hasselhoff. There you go. Plong. That was a name drop, by the way, just that noise.
I love that, though.
You're so
I love
welcome.
that.
I mean, it was hilarious.
I know.
Brilliant. It was
that
so
video.
Brilliant.
So good. So good. I love that video.
Yeah, I got David Hasselhoff to sing my song, which was just brilliant. What a ledge. Anyway, so I went off on tour with that.
In fact, sorry to interrupt, but we'll post that on our Take Back the Beat. Because people need to see that. It's brilliant.
I'm in a full Baywatch outfit as well, so yeah.
I
came back from that tour, and mate, I used to make so many jokes about it. I was like, oh, I fight I'm Batman, I fight gun crime in London, like genuinely. You know me, queen of banter, queen of sarcasm. That's what I was here for.
Humour covers up a lot.
Oh, God, yeah. And and then so that was, so I got back off that tour. And then I started seeing someone very casually, and he had a temper. And there was one particular night, I remember we'd gone to a hotel and he put his hands around my throat.
Oh, God.
And I hid in the bathroom. And then I came out of the bathroom and I'm laughing because it's ridiculous. But he literally went, don't worry, it's okay. Let's just not talk about it and just have a good time. And I was like, it's my fault. And I got home from this little weekend, told one of my really good friends, and he went mental. He was ready to kill him. He literally was just like, nah.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah, and then this fling ended, whatever. That was the only time he did anything like that, but it ended about a week later, so fine. And then I started to notice I had vocal problems. So when I say vocal problems, I was on a tour. I did a Wannabe, the Spice Girls show. We did like a big UK tour, and I noticed I'd get on stage and my voice would just be gone. And it was so tired. Like it was like it was exhausted. It was like I'd been singing for like 12 hours straight. And I was like, what's happening with my voice? And I couldn't sing anything. Convinced I had vocal problems, convinced I had even nodules or something like that. And I went to...
I remember this.
Yeah. Because do you remember the gig we did, me and you, up north somewhere, and I turned up and I was like, babe, my voice is gone. And you were like, what? And you ended up covering all of the songs.
Yeah.
And I was like...
Obviously I would do for you, but I remember...
Yeah, but I was like, I was devastated.
Yeah. You were baffled by it, I remember.
Yeah, and I was so scared. And I then went and saw a vocal coach who is freaking incredible. He's called the Voice Whisperer, but his name's Stephen, and he's amazing. And
what a brand name.
I know, brilliant. And I remember enough that you'd love him. He's very like holistic, very spiritual, very but like cool as his shit. He's brilliant. He's just, I love Stephen.
Oh wow, I love that.
And I had a lesson with him, and he was like, what's going on with you? I was like, what do you mean? Didn't know this man from Adam. And he was like, something else is happening here. What's going on? And then I had a few more lessons, and in the end I told him about the gun attack. And he was like, I think you need therapy. And I was like, A, mortified, and then B, quite embarrassed and a bit like, oh, okay, you're giving up on me, basically. And I went and had cameras down my throat. I spent so much money, and then they could see nothing wrong, not even swelling. So I went to a therapist, and typical Nat Gray, she was like, how are you? And I was like, I'm fine. And I would not,
fine,
babe, I wouldn't open up. I wouldn't say anything. I was literally like, I've lost my voice and I don't know why. Blah, blah, blah. And she ended up doing hypnotherapy on me. And she uncovered a lot of stuff. And the one thing I won't forget is she gave me a list of words and she was like, I'm going to read these words out, and if you identify with them, I want you to say on like 0 to 10. And I looked at this list of words and just saw abandonment and broke down crying. And all of a sudden, my voice felt better.
Wow.
And she basically then told me that I hadn't cried in over a year and a half, and I hadn't even realised. And she even said to me, like, when was the last time you had a good cry? And I was like, I don't cry. I don't do that. I don't do that vulnerable thing. And she was like, okay.
Wow. Look how far you've come. I'm so,
mate.
if I wasn't proud before, which I was, like, you just saying that, like, we've cried 4 times today already. Because we need
so
to.
True.
But
yeah,
the fact, like, that in itself, that you were in a place where you were like, I don't cry. I don't need to cry.
Babe,
That's weak.
And like,
look how far you've come, man.
Oh, good. I am very proud of myself. And like, I think the first time I cried in front of Aidan, it was just when he just got Phantom of the Opera over in a world tour. So it meant he was going to be away for months at a time. I mean, thank you, COVID. It ended being up 9 months. Thank you. You ass. Anyway, by the time we didn't know that. And I remember that I cried in front of him and I was so embarrassed. And he was just like, oh my God, you love me. I was like, yes, of course I do. So basically she did more kind of uncovering of this situation. And it turns out, and this is something I'd suppressed, when I was with my ex, the abusive one, he used to get a kick out of me crying. And if he made me cry, there was just something smug about him. So I taught myself not to cry. I've taught my body a way of, it basically feels like hiccups. My body is physically crying. My body is having this reaction of my diaphragm pounding and like my body kind of going, but there is no water coming out of my eyes and I'm not getting that release. Because obviously when you cry, you're releasing hormones and I wasn't getting that release. But I refused to let him have that part of me. Because again, that was the only thing I could control.
Yeah.
And I remember not crying and being like, yeah, didn't cry. Like, it's so...
Like almost an accomplishment.
Yeah. And I didn't even realise that I'd carried that through life. And then I was like, oh my God, I don't think my family have seen me cry since my nan died. I was 16 when she died. Like that, fuck. And I had this kind of revelation of like, oh my God, I still do that. I still see crying as such a weakness, such a vulnerable thing that I will never let anyone have from me. And it's really funny because there's a song I'm going to be releasing when we do the tour. At some point, that we'll reveal at some point. Soon. And it's the first song I've ever written about abuse. And there's a lyric in it that says, I'll never let you see me cry. I'll never give you that satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how I felt. And so basically what I've done is by not crying and not getting that release, my muscles were constantly in panic. And they were constantly tight and constantly wanting to have this moment of release, and I wasn't giving it to them. So therefore, they were attacking my vocal cords. They were literally strengthening around my vocal cords to stop me singing. And as you know, as a singer, we use crying to sing. Like you use the kind of same mechanisms in your body to... it's a technique of singing to cry. It's not actually like sobbing. It's a thing of you do with your mouth and your whatever. I'm not a singing teacher. I can't tell you the ins and outs. Anyway, Google it. Anyway, I'd stop myself doing that, which meant I'd stop my voice working. So when I was trying to sing, I couldn't hit these high notes anymore because my body was exhausted and not having that release. And it was so funny because the second I saw this word abandonment and I just burst out crying and revealed to her that I had this whole thing with my ex and I still feel quite worthless. I still don't feel like I deserve happiness and this and that. And also, a few years ago, I nearly died and I've wasted my life. And that was the big revelation for me, was my life could have gone like that. And what have I fucking done with it? And everything kind of came back about my ex of like, I wasted years of my life putting up with that. I wasted years thinking I'm worthless. Like, people would kill to live the life I lead and have the family I have and the opportunities I have. And here I am wasting it. And instead of that turning into a let's go and make the best of today, I hated myself. And it turned negative, and it turned to anger and bitterness. And I blamed him for it. And that's the bitterness I felt. And I realised kind of after seeing this therapist that I wasn't ready to date, to give any form of vulnerability to anybody. Like, you know it because you're my bestie and you love me, but it takes a lot for me to tell someone I'm upset. Like, I even yesterday, like having that panic attack, I didn't call anyone. Aidan called me because I wasn't answering. And he was like, what's going on? And he'd seen the message. I went, oh, some woman spilled coffee on me and this happened and this happened. And like, even when I got home and I broke to my parents, my mum was like, I know you're upset. Just tell me, talk to me. And I'm like, no. And I had a really bad flare up of my anxiety and PTSD last year. Mainly because there was a shooting outside my new flat in London. And gotta love London. And my boyfriend was in a show, so he wasn't home. And I freaked out, and I didn't know what to do. And I reached out, and I'm putting that in quotations, because what I did was sent a message in a group chat I've got of a couple of friends who I'd seen more online. And I just put, anyone awake? And no one replied. And I took this as a personal attack on me, that they thought I wasn't worth it. They thought I wasn't worth their time. But actually, I've had an open conversation with them now and gone, I felt like you didn't care. And they were like, if you had called us and said, these are the thoughts I'm having, this is where I'm at, we'd have been there in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But like, you don't project it.
Yeah,
I don't use my voice. I don't use my voice to show how I'm feeling and how I actually, the struggles sometimes I face. And that is something I'm really learning. And having like this relationship with you is so amazing, because you are so open about stuff and you always ask me how I am, and it's lovely. And having this kind of time to have this moment, and I don't feel any anger or bitterness towards that guy anymore. I haven't for years, and I know that. I know even when I felt a bit of anger, it wasn't actually to do with him, it was to do with me. And it was me trying to accept that I let that happen.
It's like you said, it's the process though. I was bitter,
it's the process.
and then I was angry, then I was sad, then I was mad at myself, and it's the whole thing that it doesn't just end on the day you decide to leave or change your life. It does not end there.
It really doesn't.
And you have to deal with all these emotions when you've gone through such trauma, whether you like it or not. It's getting a hold of them and learning how to deal with them and what's the healthiest way to deal with them.
Yeah, and I think I haven't actually said this to you yet, because I felt like it was a bit of a woe is me, pity party moment. But when we've obviously been doing this podcast and talking to some incredible people, and yourself especially, and you all had that moment of like, you left. You made the decision, you left. Even if you went back, you left. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I begged, I stayed, I pleaded, I was devastated. And that makes me feel so weak and so hypocritical, because...
No, I'm going to stop you, because you've told me this, because I did go back. I went back after getting the police involved. Like, I almost wasn't going to say anything on the episode, and then I was like, no, fuck it, because that happened.
That's what we were
here. It doesn't make me weak, and it doesn't... I'm going to be honest with everybody. Yeah. I went back because I was still in a vulnerable state, and I went back. It's as simple as that. And people got hurt, and I got hurt all over again, and it was this horrible thing. And I look at that and think, well, that was a horrible thing. Yeah. But it doesn't, I don't know. Do you get what I mean? Like, it doesn't take anything away from it. So please don't think that. Like,
do. And I know what you're saying, and it's so hard to swallow that pill, isn't it? Like, and it's a trigger for me when people say, I don't know why they don't just walk away. I don't know why they don't just leave. And, I've got no sympathy for her because she went back. And you hear this a lot with other people's stories, especially when people don't know what you've been through. And it's so hard.
They just see like a black and white picture.
Yeah.
Where actually genuinely 50 Shades of Grey, but not the good version.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's genuinely what it is. It's not black and white. So people are like, oh my God, you went back. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Didn't go back and move in back together and make it official. It was just a fucked up time of back and forth for a long time. So then
so hard.
My brain was like, well, now I can't talk about this. And I was the same for a long time. I was like, well, I can't talk about this because I got out, and then I started secretly seeing him again.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But it was what it was. I'm not there now. And again, I took myself away from it. But there were days where I was the same. I was begging. I was like...
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like I said, it's such a psychological thing that you go through. Yeah. And people don't understand the damage that can be caused.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like... I'd love to kind of look into it more, I think.
Yeah.
But on a mental health level.
Yeah.
Because obviously we talk a lot about, you said, like abuse and domestic abuse and violence towards women, but it's the part after. It's the mental health
it's
side
building
of it.
yourself back up.
Yeah, like when we had the break between, and I'm sorry I'm not making this about me again, we had the break in between the podcasts, and I said, I was like, I've just told my story. I don't think I realised. I was like, it doesn't even sound like I'm talking about me now, because that's great. You know, I'm in a good space of like dealing with things and I know where I'm at. But I said to you, didn't I? I was like, maybe I should have had therapy. Yeah. Like saying all that again out loud, I'm like, shit. Yeah. Like...
And you don't deal with it. And it's... No. You know what you went through, and you don't want to... I know you'll feel the same as this. I don't want to feel like a burden to anyone. And it's kind of why I don't... I still have a lot of insecurities, and for a while it took me ages, because I was like kind of like the thin thing of being like, well, I can't control anything else, but I can control my weight. I went through a stage of being like, because everyone knows me as quite a positive and happy person, and like that's my music. My music is really like happy 80s, woohoo, and everyone knows me for that. So when I started to have these flare-ups of PTSD and having to deal with, actually deep down I feel worthless, I didn't feel like I could speak to people, because I was like, well, actually, the one thing I have, I'm not a pretty girl, I'm not this, I'm not that, but I have this positivity, and people like to talk to me about their problems, and I don't want to be a burden. And it's taken a lot of self-work on myself to go, actually, Nat, like, you bring stuff to the table. Like, it's okay. And it's also okay to have a bad day and need help and ask for help. And we shouldn't be ashamed of that. And when, again, like you said, when you sit down and go, actually, everything we've been through, it's okay that sometimes we just need a little break, like just need something. And I'm
going to give myself a break today for putting myself through mentally, you know,
exactly
bad things and straining myself. But actually, you know, when you say it out loud and you're like, oh, okay.
It's
we're allowed a day.
Yeah. And I'm still dealing with a lot of stuff, but like I said, I kind of have I've put it behind me, but maybe I haven't, because I don't talk about it. I don't, like I said, Aiden knows little bits and bobs because of just things I've told him. I've spoken openly on the podcast about, like, me and Aiden was like play fighting. Aiden loves tickling me because he knows I hate it. Such a little shit. And like, so that, but I've talked about one day, like, he literally, like, I think he we play fighting, it just happened too hard, and I freaked, and I had to be like, I know, and
that's
he was
a trigger.
Yeah, and he was so mortified, because he is the big friendly giant. Like, he is just so lovely.
Oh my God, he is. He's so sweet.
But he was mortified by it, because he was like, I would never do that, and I was like, I know, but my brain needs to take time, and maybe that's because I don't talk about it. I don't know, but I am grateful we've been speaking about it here, and like I said to you, I did feel very like, oh, my story isn't as like dramatic, or this didn't happen, or I wasn't in hospital. And you do have to go, it doesn't matter. It's still abuse. It's still a violent relationship. You still went through something traumatic, and it doesn't...
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what we wanted to talk about on here, is like, not all abuse is physical abuse. Not all abuse is like I said, a lot of mine was control. He loved the control.
You still had a lot of physical abuse, though. Don't take that away, because that's in itself
was horrific. But I'm so glad I've kind of faced it. And now, like, God, I cry at a freaking dog video on TikTok, and I'm so glad, because my voice is in the best shape it's been in years. Yeah. And I've had to kind of own the PTSD from the gun attack, which is what the therapist diagnosed me with. and I have meditations I have to do and breathing exercises I do to calm down my anxiety. But it's such a quick spiral from I nearly died, I could die, and I struggle to walk down the street sometimes because I freak out that someone's going to come around the corner or whatever. And the amount of times I've said to like Aiden, I was like, why are you with me? Like, because my brain just goes instantly to default of you are worthless. And actually, I need to remember that he's with me because he loves me and I'm fun and I'm cool and
and you're an incredible woman.
Like, yeah, and it's owning that and going, actually, yeah, like, I love him as much as he loves me. And and I've said this to you, like hit my mic. When you get into a relationship, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a struggle, but you have to just talk through it because that's the only way of getting through. And also you have to make sure they understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of.
I feel like I'll just be like, just go ahead and listen to this episode.
Just listen to this, and then let's take it from there. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe.
Well,
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for listening. I'm calm now. Like the last 10 minutes, I feel quite calm, but the first even just it's the second you said, "Oh, like you go," I was like, "Where do I start?" Okay, and I felt like, oh, okay, breathe. And obviously, there's so many.
Definitely relaxed into it. Definitely. Yeah, that's how I felt when you was like, "So Farah, tell me your story." And I was like, I feel like in the beginning, I'm very like high pitched, like,
yeah. And I'm really glad.
It's difficult, but I'm proud of us.
Yeah, I'm very proud of us. And like I said, there's so many stories we could both tell of what we've been through and the ins and outs of both our relationships. And I know I was quite vague on certain things, but we've
scratched the surface.
We have,
and we've shared.
Yeah, and I just want, like we said, this podcast isn't about what we've been through. It's about how we've come out of it and who we are now. And I'm a strong woman now, and I would never let that happen to me again.
No,
and
same.
I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of who I am and where I've come. And I just need to sometimes remember that because I'm just going to listen to that on loop sometimes.
Oh, gosh,
but yeah, this is a safe space, and I'm glad we've shared our stories. So feel free, guys, to write in and share yours because we want to hear. We want to know that you're not alone. You're not worthless. You are loved and you are brave, and that's kind of where this space is.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, thank you. I just want to say again, you've shared your story, and I'm so proud of you.
Thanks,
and
bud.
I'm sorry for everything you've been through, and not in a way of like, oh, I'm sorry, but I genuinely am sorry that you had to go through all that. But you are an incredibly strong human being because a lot of it. And the fact that you can not only have your bad days, but give me advice and strength on your lowest day, that to me is just incredible. So thank you.
Staying back at you because we do this together. We always say we got this, and if you haven't got it, I've got it for you.
I know.
So, yeah.
And you got anyone listening at home or anything like that, we're here.
Yeah,
we genuinely are. We know how important it is to talk or write about it.
Yeah.
So please reach out and get in touch, and we're here. We're here to listen. We're here to help. We're here to advise you to websites that you might need to go and see or anything like that. And yeah.
Well, thank you guys for sitting through. I know these were 2 quite long episodes, but it was a journey for us. So we don't want to edit it too much. We don't want to cut anything out. This is it. So
no.
Thank you for sitting still and listening. And we love you all, and we'll see you next week for we'll get another guest on, and we'll go back to our usual format. But we love you all so much.
We'll have a win of the week.
We will, Anna Biscoff, and we'll be on top form. But we love you all so much.
Yeah, I love you so much.
I love you, Farah, you little dickhead.
Love you.
We do apologise if anyone was triggered by any of the dialogue we used today. We are still learning, and we are only just beginning to talk about our own experiences. We're aware that trigger warnings are completely different for everybody, so please bear with us. We love you all. We also want to hear your experiences. If there's anything you'd like to share with us, any stories, anything you are happy to discuss on this podcast, you can stay anonymous if you would like. Please send us an email at takebackthebeattour@gmail.com. That's takebackthebeattour@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media at takebackthebeat. Thanks, guys. We love you all.